Hey, hello again. Mike O'Brien, your Getaway Guy. Time for another Getaway podcast. Thank you for coming along for the ride. Today, I'm in Jamestown, New York, because I love Lucy.
And you will too. This is where it's all at. It's her hometown of Jamestown, New York. There's the Lucy Desi Museum and Gift Shop, and it's a little confusing. There's actually two museums. This is the smaller one, Early Life of Lucy, her awards. There's her Mercedes. Of course, she drove around in the Mercedes. God bless her. The Lucy Desi Museum. The second museum right next door shows the TV show. And there's a recreation of the set of their New York City apartment. We all remember that when we watched I Love Lucy. So it's all right here, which is really cool. Jamestown, New York, her hometown. And I mean, we can remember all the scenes from this apartment. There's the Queen of the Gypsies necklace. Everyone remembers that particular show. So you'll see a lot of memorabilia from the show itself. And it's all right there. You walk in, and it's just set up as any museum would be, with a ton of props and a ton of costumes, even the scripts that they wrote and edited. I loved seeing all of that, where they've penciled out certain lines, they changed it, they rehearsed it, and there's the set itself. And of course, the recreation is available to see in the Lucy Desi Museum. And it's fun to see it all. It really is fun, because where else are you going to do this? It's the Lucy Desi Museum, and that is the first part of the museum. There's also another part of the museum as well, which I'll show you in a second. But what I did, I took Route 90, the thruway, out of Rochester, headed west toward Buffalo, and then south, continuing on 90, all the way to about Fredonia, and that's where you'll pick up Route 60. Out of Rochester, about 2 hours, 45 minutes of driving. It's a day, so you kind of do a commitment there. And it's a really nice museum if you love Lucy, you remember the show, or even if you just want to familiarize yourself with this powerhouse couple, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. They were pioneers in the industry. They were unbelievable. And you'll get a good grasp as to how powerful their studios were, and also what they did as far as groundbreaking television show production. They did things that no one had ever done before. And you'll learn about all of this in the Lucy Desi Museum in Jamestown, New York. But before you leave town, you got to have breakfast, right? And that's what I did before I got on the road. Jim's is one of our sponsors for this podcast. By the way, I'll be showing you more of the museum here in a second. But yeah, I go to Jim's. It's on Main Street in Rochester, East Main, right down from the Auditorium Theater. If you're looking for a quick breakfast, inexpensive, it's cheap, cash only. They do have an ATM machine, but a great breakfast. You know, I just found out they make their own coffee cake. I eye this coffee cake every time I'm there, and I don't do it. I want, no, Mike, no, do your eggs. And then I do. And then I look at them, the coffee cake, before I leave, and promise that I'll be back. But yeah, if you like coffee cake, wow, and it's a different flavor every time. Jim's Late Riser's my favorite. Coffee mug will never go empty. Highly recommended. Also, Jim's at the mall. Remember, it's cash only, and it's a good place to stop for breakfast before you leave town to go to the Lucy Desi Museum. Now, let me show you a little bit more of the museum. In the other museum, the bigger one, not only is the New York City apartment available, but the Ricardo's Hollywood Hotel room. Remember the shows from there? Well, there's the recreation of that studio set, and they've recreated it beautifully. Scenes from the show when Lucy and Desi were in Hollywood, also available on a nice screen inside the museum, and you can see a lot of the shows when they were in that Hollywood studio hotel. It's just a lot of fun, and all of these memories come back to you immediately when you see this stuff. Remember Vitamita Vegemin? Who can forget that? And it's great stuff. A lot of her costumes are there, props from the show. A lot of Lucy's wardrobe is on display as well, and of course scenes from the I Love Lucy show, classic scenes on the museum screen. It all brings it together. It's really nice. It's a good day if you like Lucy. It's all there. She'd be so proud Jamestown, New York. I didn't find a whole lot else in town, so I went to the museum and then pretty much, left. But it's going to take you, a few hours to get there and then a few hours to get home. But I think it's worth it, especially if you like Lucy, or in this case, love Lucy. The Lucy Desi Museum, a great getaway in Jamestown, New York. Admission is best done online to get your tickets, and they're timed museum tickets, so you just do it all right online. Be careful with the website. Maybe it's just me, but I had a heck of a time figuring out exactly which tickets to get, because there's the comedy the comedy museum itself, where there are performances when they have people come to town to do comedy acts, but that's also part of the possibilities to get tickets. Then there's the museum itself to get tickets. So there's two different types of things going on. Just make sure you click the right one. Unlike me, I messed it up, but we figured it out. Well worth it. Again, prices for the Lucy Desi Museum on this getaway, $19 for adults, $18 for seniors. Kids aged 13 to 17, $16, 5 and under are free. Military and veterans, $14 for your ticket. And I think it's worth it. I think that's affordable. I think if you're going to make the commitment to get on the road to go, I think that's going to be great. Again, I took Thruway to Buffalo, continued on the Thruway toward Erie, got off at Route 60 near Fredonia, and you're there. Again, 2 hours, 45 minutes, something like that. You find, what's really good? They're closed, by the way, on Wednesdays, but go like on an early Sunday morning. They open at 10 o'clock in the morning. Get there by 10. That way you don't run into a ton of traffic. Now, on the way back, I didn't go back the same way that I came. I got on Interstate Route 87, which heads east toward Olean, Angelica, things like that. And then I connected eventually to Route 390, and then headed north to Rochester. About the same amount of travel time, but I found that to be a great way to go, because 87 was like empty. There was no one on the highway. And I found that, and it's quite beautiful through there too. I think you go through the Allegheny Mountains. It's quite nice, and it's a nice ride. I suggest that to go back, or even going to the museum, you can go that way, just 390 south and connect to 87 west. So there you go. And that's the Lucy Desi Museum getaway, something to consider. They're open year-round, but again, closed on Wednesdays. They open up at 10 a.m. We do a podcast question, and we've got one right now. This one comes to us from Marlene in Penfield, and Marlene writes, "Dear Getaway Guy, what small towns or villages would you recommend for a fun day trip?" Thank you, Marlene. Well, Jamestown, that's an idea, today's getaway, but I have a few other places. One is the hamlet of Hammondsport. Have you ever been to Hammondsport? It's at the south end of Keuka Lake, right on Keuka Lake. It's and they call it a hamlet. It's a little village, but it's a hamlet. Hammondsport. Plenty of restaurants. A few wineries in that area, of course. Bully Hill is up on the hill. And also a lot of bed and breakfast. So you plan to spend the night, you can do that there. The Black Sheep Inn is this old octagon, very old building, one of the bed and breakfasts in town that I think you'll enjoy. There's great history there, and it's so unusual, just one of many. There's also the Glenn Curtis Museum, the Museum of Aviation in Hammondsport. That's also something you might want to check out. Another great little town or village, Skaneateles, New York. Have you been there before? It's just east of Auburn, New York, about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes out of Rochester, and it's a great way to spend the day. You could spend some time in Auburn and then continue on to Skaneateles. Auburn has the Seward House, the Harriet Tubman Home, and a few other great attractions, and then go on to Skaneateles. The lake is absolutely beautiful, and you can take a couple of different boats on the lake. And one of them is the mail boat. It's an old mahogany, beautifully restored, old, authentic, historical boat. It seats like 30 people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's called the mail boat because that's how they deliver the mail to all the very beautiful, stately homes on the lake. and the mailboxes are down by the water. And I was there for a getaway once in Skaneateles on the mailboat, and I helped deliver the mail to these beautiful, expensive homes. And by the way, the mail I went through, they were all bills. It was off. No, just kidding. It's a great way to spend the day, Skaneateles, New York. And the day after Thanksgiving kicks off Dickens' Christmas Carol from the Sherwood Inn. On the steps of the Sherwood Inn, Charles Dickens comes down those steps. He almost fell last year because he's old. He's been around for 100 and 200 years. Yeah. So, but all the characters just kind of permeate the town, the village of Skaneateles, and for the next several days up till Christmas, even Christmas Eve. It's kind of fun, and it's very festive. I can't believe I'm talking about Christmas already. Wow. Another place, Corning, New York, my hometown. I'm very partial to it. I love Corning, New York. You got the Corning Museum of Glass. You also have the Rockwell Museum, not to be confused with Norman Rockwell. That's not that. It's Western art, and it's beautiful. And you can kind of get a combo ticket with the Corning Museum of Glass and the Rockwell Museum. There's shuttle buses. By the way, there's Market Street, which has been a great place to go for lunch or dinner or gift shopping. Corning, New York is a great getaway. If you've never been, just south on 390, and you're there in an hour and a half. One of my suggestions, Marlene of Penfield, if you're looking for a little village to visit on your next day trip. By the way, if you have any questions or suggestions, whatever, I love to hear from you. Go to my email address, MikeTheGetawayGuy@gmail.com, and ask away. And hopefully we'll have you on the show. You can also go there, ask me for my BOGO offer with my travel books. Speaking of the holidays, I know, but we could do this now, and I'll sign it to whoever you want to give it to as a gift. Plan ahead. It's a BOGO offer by volume number 2 right here, $14.95, shipping, handling, things like that. But you'll get volume number 1 for free. And again, I'll sign them to you. You can also pick up my books right now at Powers Farm Market in Pittsford or the Liftbridge Bookshop in Brockport. And there you go. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. Everyone loves to travel, and we love to have you on board. Remember to look for us on all podcast platforms, Tales of the Getaway Guy. Or you can just search for The Getaway Guy on Facebook, and you'll find all the shows. Thank you very much to Jim's on Main. Thank you, Joe, here at Classy Wolf Media. And thank you for coming along for the ride. Until next time, I'm Mike O'Brien, your Getaway Guy.